The plasma blast hit him square in the chest, a fist of molten sun that vaporized his tactical armor and liquefied the flesh beneath. He did not scream. He just fell, the momentum carrying him backward onto the scorched sulfur rock of Kratos. His name was Ethan Hale, and he was a veteran of the Earth Alliance, a fact that meant very little in this quadrant of space. He tasted copper and ash. His lungs were on fire. Through the flickering static of his failing visor, he saw the child. She was small, perhaps only 4 years old in her species cycle, with skin the color of twilight and large, luminous eyes that held the terror of an entire galaxy. Her name was Zara, and she was the reason this entire planet was burning. "Go," Ethan gasped, his voice a wet rattle. He used his last strength to push her toward a narrow maintenance conduit, a dark hole in the side of the ruined outpost. She clung to his gauntlet, her tiny, four-fingered hand trembling. "They are coming," she whispered, her voice like tiny bells. "I know." He fought to focus. The world was tilting, the yellow sky swirling into the black smoke. He saw the cryol assault carriers descending, sleek, obsidian blades cutting through the atmosphere. They were here for her. The heir to the Altharian Empire, the last of her line, and the key to a cosmic stalemate. And in this moment, she was just a child, weaker than any human infant, defenseless. "You have to run. Do not stop. Do not look back." He pushed her again, harder. She looked at him, her gaze piercing his very soul. "You will die." "That is the job." He tried to smile, but it felt like his face was breaking. He saw his own blood pooling on the yellow rock. "Listen to me, Zara." He grabbed her shoulder. "It does not matter what happens to me. It matters what you do next. You are going to change everything. Do you understand me, everything?" She stared, absorbing the words with a gravity far beyond her years. Then she nodded, a sharp, sudden movement. "Good girl, now go. Survive." She scrambled into the darkness of the pipe just as the first cryoshock troops rounded the wreckage. They were massive, insectoid creatures with metallic carapaces and pulse rifles already glowing. Ethan Hale used the last spark in his nervous system to raise his sidearm. He was dead before his first shot missed, his body slumping against the conduit. A final, silent guardian. He felt nothing as the cryol soldiers stormed past him, ignoring his corpse. He was not aware of the subsequent firefight as a separate, unidentified faction ambushed the cryol, snatching the child from the tunnels below. He did not register the political firestorm when news broke of his death and the heir's capture. He did not hear the galaxy ignite as the two great empires, the Althar and the Cryol, declared total war, a conflict that would consume stars and civilizations for decades. He knew only the blackness. For 50 years. Then, he gasped. The light was blinding, a sterile, artificial white that pierced his new eyelids. He felt cold, slick, and agonizingly alive. The sound of thick liquid draining away echoed in his ears, and he tumbled from a vertical pod onto a polished chrome floor. He coughed, thick, nutrient-rich fluid sputtering from his lungs. He lay on his hands and knees, trembling, his body feeling both alien and intimately familiar. "Where?" he tried to say, but his voice was a dry croak. He pushed himself up, his muscles responding with a vigor he did not recognize. He saw his reflection in the mirrored wall of the chamber. The man staring back was him, Ethan Hale, but it was a version scrubbed clean by time and technology. The network of scars that had mapped his face and torso were gone. His hair was thick and dark, untouched by the gray that had begun to creep at his temples. He looked perfect. He looked like he was 25 years old again, but sculpted. "Who am I?" he whispered. The question felt vast and empty. He had no name in his mind, no history, no memory of the yellow sky or the little girl. He was a blank slate, a ghost in a new machine. A voice, female and clipped, echoed through the room. Designation Ethan Hale. Status viable. Please proceed to the hygiene station. A section of the white wall dissolved, revealing a doorway. Ethan looked down at his flawless hands. He felt a strange energy thrumming just beneath his skin, a static hum that was not memory but something new. "Ethan Hale," he repeated. It felt like trying on another man's clothes. "Okay, but where is the hygiene station? And more importantly, where is the coffee?" He stepped through the doorway into a larger laboratory. Medical equipment he did not recognize lined the walls, sleek and menacing. A woman in a stark white uniform stood observing him, holding a data slate. She had severe dark hair and eyes that analyzed him not as a man, but as a result. "I am Dr. Eris," she said, her voice devoid of any warmth. "You are in the Ethel Research Facility on Station Gamma." "Ethel," Ethan repeated. He tried to access any file, any recognition, nothing, as just a hollow echo. "Right. So, Dr. Eris, what is the viable patient special for today? Am I being discharged? Or just decanted?" He leaned against a console, trying to project a confidence he did not feel. The galaxy, his life, his own face. All of it was a void. Humor was the only weapon he had left. "You are not a patient," Dr. Eris corrected him flatly. "You are an asset. You have been for the 50 years since your retrieval." The words hit him like a physical blow. 50 years. He gripped the console. The number was absurd. 50 years I was... What happened to me? The last thing I remember is... nothing. There is nothing. "That is correct," she said, tapping her slate. "Total memory wipe. A side effect of the resurrection matrix. Your body was recovered from Kratos by one of our long-range scavenger teams. Catastrophically damaged. You were, to use the clinical term, dead." "I feel pretty not dead," Ethan said, flexing his fingers. The energy hummed louder, an impatient vibration in his bones. "So you reanimated me? Why was there a shortage of sarcastic guys with amnesia?" Dr. Eris almost looked annoyed. "Your genetic profile was flagged. You were compatible with the Matrix. A 1 in a billion chance. We resurrected you. But the process was unstable. It has taken 50 years of stabilization in the pod to achieve viability. You are the first successful subject." "Lucky me." He pushed off the console and walked toward her. He was taller than she was, and he realized his body felt immensely powerful. "So what now? Do I get a pension? Or do I just do tricks for the Ethel scientists?" "You will be assessed," she said, taking an involuntary step back. "Your unique properties need to be cataloged." "Properties?" Ethan frowned. He felt it again, that tingling energy. He focused on the data slate in her hand. He wondered what it said about him. He felt a sudden, sharp pull in his gut. The slate in Dr. Eris's hand sparked violently. She cried out and dropped it as it flared, melting into a smoking piece of slag on the floor. They both stared at the puddle. Ethan looked at his own hand, wide-eyed. "I did not touch that," Dr. Eris's cold demeanor finally cracked, replaced by a flicker of... Was it fear or excitement? "Your energy signature is off the charts. You are not just resurrected, Subject Hale. You are... enhanced." Before she could say more, the station alarms blared. Red lights flashed across the sterile white walls, bathing the lab in a pulse of panic. "Intrusion alert," a computerized voice announced. "Unidentified vessel docked. Deck 4. Hostiles engaging security. This is not a drill." Dr. Eris lunged for a wall panel, slapping at controls. "Lock down. Secure the asset." "Hey," Ethan shouted. "I am the asset, and I do not like being secured." A heavy bulkhead door began to slide shut, sealing the lab. But before it could close, it was blown inward. A concussion wave threw Dr. Eris against the far wall, where she slumped, unconscious. The door, now a twisted mass of molten metal, was kicked aside. Two figures stood in the smoky doorway. They were tall, impossibly graceful, and clad in armor that seemed to be made of polished obsidian and light. They carried weapons that looked more like sculpted art than rifles. They were not human. "Target identified," one of them said. His voice, a melodic baritone, filtered through his helmet. "Confirm. It is the human. Hail." Ethan raised his hands. "Look, fellows, I just woke up. I have not even had a shower. Can we maybe reschedule the hostile engagement?" The first soldier aimed his weapon. "By order of the Empress, you will come with us." "Empress," Ethan said. "I do not know any Empress. I do not know anything. I am emphatically neutral on all matters involving empires and empresses." The soldier fired, but he was not aiming at Ethan. A blue energy bolt shot past Ethan's head and vaporized a half-dozen Ethel security drones that had just swarmed into the hallway behind them. "We are your protection," the soldier said, grabbing Ethan's arm. His grip was like steel. "Move! Now! Protection!" "You just blew up my room," Ethan protested, stumbling as he was dragged into the corridor. The station was chaos. Energy bolts stitched the air. Ethel security forces, human and robotic, were exchanging fire with the obsidian armored soldiers. The intruders were cutting through them like they were paper. "Who are you people?" Ethan yelled over the roar of weapons fire. "We are the Crimson Guard of Althar," the soldier replied, never breaking stride. He blasted two more drones without even looking. "We are here for you." "But why?" Ethan demanded. He felt a surge of that strange energy again. A defensive instinct. A security drone aimed at him. Before he could even think, Ethan threw up his hand. A wave of pure, shimmering force erupted from his palm. Not a spark like before, but a physical barrier. The drone's plasma blast hit the shield and dissipated harmlessly. Ethan stared at his hand. "Okay, that is new." The Crimson Guard paused for a fraction of a second. "The Empress was right. You are special." He shoved Ethan forward. "Faster! The ship will not wait!" They burst onto a docking bay. A sleek, blade-like ship hung in the magnetic clamps, its engines already glowing. Its design was organic, almost alive, and it dwarfed the utilitarian structures of the Ethel station. This was technology, 50 years advanced from whatever Ethan was supposed to remember. The ramp was down. As they ran for it, a new group of soldiers appeared on the gantry above. They were not Ethel. They were Cryol. The same insectoid, heavily armed nightmares from the fractured half-memory of a yellow planet. "The Scourge," the Altharian guard yelled. "They followed us." Ethan felt a jolt, not of memory, but of pure, undiluted hatred. He did not know why, but the sight of those creatures made his blood boil and the power inside him roar. "Get to the ship," Ethan yelled, surprising himself. He turned, facing the Cryol. "We must protect you, just go." Ethan planted his feet. He raised his hands, palms out, as the Cryol opened fire. He had no idea what he was doing, but it felt right. He did not just create a shield this time. He pushed. The energy that left him was not a wave. It was a battering ram of invisible force. It struck the gantry, and the entire metal structure groaned, twisted, and collapsed, sending the Cryol squad plummeting into the service shafts below. Ethan staggered, dizzy from the effort. "Whoa!" The Crimson Guard grabbed him, hauling him up the ramp. "The Empress will be pleased." The ramp sealed. The ship tore itself from the docking clamps with a scream of tortured metal and blasted out of the station, leaving a rupturing hole in the hull behind them. Ethan was thrown into a crash couch as the ship accelerated, the gravitic forces pinning him flat. Through the viewport, he saw the Ethel station receding, a wounded animal in the black. Then, the blackness tore open. The stars streaked, elongated, and vanished, replaced by a swirling tunnel of psychedelic blue light. The journey was disorienting, but brief. When the ship snapped back into normal space, Ethan looked out the viewport and his non-existent memory failed him anyway. He was not looking at a planet. He was looking at a fleet, thousands of ships, some so large they eclipsed the nearby moons. They were the same organic, blade-like design as the ship he was on, a silver armada arrayed against the cosmos. And beyond them, looming like a god, was a space station, so vast it had its own weather systems, a ringed behemoth of glowing white towers and spinning golden habitats. "Welcome to Althara," the Crimson Guard said, removing his helmet. His face was humanoid, but strikingly beautiful, with the same twilight skin as the child Ethan did not remember, and the same luminous eyes. "The heart of the Empire." "It is." "Big," Ethan managed, his sarcasm failing him. He felt like an ant. "And this Empress, she runs all this? Why does she care about one resurrected, confused human?" The guard secured his rifle. "She has her reasons. She has been searching for you for a very long time." The throne room was not a room. It was a cathedral to power. The ceiling was a living star map, constellations wheeling slowly overhead. The floor was polished obsidian, reflecting the light of 1,000 floating sensor globes. Pillars of white, fluted stone, rose to impossible heights. At the far end, upon a dais of interlocking rings, sat the Empress. Ethan walked alone, his footsteps echoing in the cavernous silence. His Crimson Guard escort had left him at the massive doors. He was still wearing the simple, gray uniform from the Ethel facility. He felt exposed, ridiculous, and profoundly out of place. The woman on the throne watched him approach. She was clad in state armor of white and gold, intricate and regal. A crown, or perhaps a complex neurointerface, rested on her brow, its filaments woven into her dark, upswept hair. She was like her guard, Altharian, and she was the most intimidating presence he had ever encountered. This was not a politician. This was a ruler. He stopped a respectful, or perhaps fearful, distance from the dais. "So," Ethan said, his voice sounding small, "I hear you are the one who sent the noisy welcome wagon. I appreciate the pickup. But you wrecked my hospital, and they shot my doctor." The Empress did not move. Her face was serene, beautiful, and hard as diamond. "Dr. Eris was stunned, not killed. The Ethel organization illegally salvaged your remains. They are lucky I did not dismantle their entire station." Her voice was low and clear, with the same bell-like undertone he almost recognized. "Right." Ethan rubbed the back of his neck. "Look, your bigness, your highness, I do not mean to be rude, but I have no idea who you are. I have no idea who I am. I woke up about 3 hours ago, found out I have been dead for 50 years, and apparently, I can shoot force beams out of my hands. It is a very confusing day. Why am I here? The Empress stood. The movement was fluid, a ripple of power. She descended the steps of the dais, her armor humming softly. She was tall, taller than he was, and she moved with the practiced grace of a warrior. As she neared, she seemed less like a distant monarch and more like a person carrying an impossible weight. She stopped just in front of him, close enough that he could see the faint, luminous shimmer in her eyes. "You do not remember me," she stated. It was not a question. It was a confirmation of a deep loss. "Should I?" Ethan asked, genuinely curious. "My entire past is a black hole. The name Ethan Hale means about as much to me as Emperor Zorg, no offense." "Your name is Ethan Hale," she said, her voice softening, losing its regal edge and becoming something personal. "You were a soldier, Earth Alliance. You fought on Kratos." He searched his empty mind. Kratos. Yellow sky, sulfur. The images flashed, fractured and meaningless. "It sounds awful." "It was," she said. She held up her left hand. Across her twilight palm was a thin, white scar. "I was there, too. I was a child." Ethan looked at the powerful, 6-foot-tall Empress, and then at the faint scar. And suddenly, a memory broke through the void. A tiny, 4-fingered hand clinging to his gauntlet. A small, terrified face. "My God," he whispered, staggering back. Zara, the Empress of the Altharian Empire, nodded. And for a fleeting moment, her eyes shimmered with the unshed tears of a child lost 50 years ago. "Hello, Ethan." He stared, his mind reeling, trying to reconcile the two images, the small, fragile girl, and the powerhouse of a woman standing before him. You got tall." A small, sad smile touched her lips. 50 years will do that. I grew. You did not. You died. So I keep hearing." He shook his head, trying to clear it. You did all this?" He waved a hand at the massive throne room, the fleet outside. "I survived," Zara said, her voice hardening again as she regained her composure. "Just as you told me to, I was captured. Yes, but not by the Creole. I was held for 8 years. When I finally escaped and returned to Althera, my world was in flames. The war you died in. It never ended. Your sacrifice. My capture. It was the spark that lit the galaxy. The Cryol Empire and the Altharian Empire have been bleeding each other dry ever since." Ethan felt a crushing weight settle on him. "So the war, it is because of me." "It is because of us," she corrected him, "and what we represent. But your part is not over. I have tracked the rumors of Ethel's subject Hale for a decade. I knew it was you. I did not know they had changed you." "Yeah, the hand-blasting thing is new," Ethan said dryly. "What is it, some kind of cosmic energy?" "It is you," Zara said simply. "The resurrection matrix did not just heal you. It seems to have unlocked something, a potential our ancestors only whispered about. The ability to touch the energy of the universe itself." "Great. So I am a super-powered amnesiac ghost." "What a resume." He met her gaze. "Why bring me here, Zara, to say thank you? It seems a little elaborate." "I brought you here to give you a choice," she said, turning and walking toward the great viewport that overlooked her fleet. "The organization that rebuilt you, Ethel. They would have made you a weapon, an experiment. Here, you are a man I owe my life to, a man my empire owes its future to. I do not want an empire, Ethan said, joining her at the window. The scale of it was terrifying. I know, she said. That is why I trust you. You have no memory. Ethan, you have no past, no allegiances. You are free. Free, he scoffed. I am a prisoner of the present. I do not know who I was, or what I fought for. Zara looked at him, her luminous eyes intense. You fought for me, when I was nothing, when I was weak. You gave your life for one. Small, alien girl. She gestured to the stars. Now, that girl is an empress, and she is asking for your help again. The war is at a tipping point. The Cryol are pushing us back. My own people are divided. They see me as too young, too compromised. And what do you want me to do? Ethan asked. Single-handedly fight that fleet, I do, not even know how to turn on my powers. I want you to find your purpose, Zara said. The one you lost. I cannot give you back your memories, but I can give you a future. Help me. Help me end this war. Help me do what you told me I would do. What was that? You told me I would change everything. She looked back at the throne, her expression bleak. So far, I've only changed things for the worse. I need your help, Ethan. I need the man who saved me. Ethan looked at his new, unmarked hands. He felt the hum of power within them, a terrifying, unknown potential. He looked at this empress, this woman who ruled 1,000 worlds, but still looked at him like he was her only protector. He had no past. He had no future. All he had was this moment. I do not remember that man, Zara, he said softly. I do not know if I am him. I might be a monster. You are not a monster, she said, with absolute certainty. You do not know that, he sighed, the weight of 50 lost years pressing on him. But I do not like those Cryol bastards. I do not know why, but I really do not like them. And I do not like being a lab rat. And, he added, with a half smile, you seem to be the only one in the galaxy who knows my name. He extended his hand. Where do we start? Empress Zara looked at his hand, and for the first time, she smiled. It was a real smile, bright and sudden, and for a second, he saw the child she had been. She did not take his hand. Instead, she placed her own over her heart in a formal Altharian salute. We start, she said, with breakfast, and then we get you some new clothes. Those gray pajamas are insulting. Ethan chuckled. It was the first real sound he had made in 50 years. Lead the way. The new clothes were a significant improvement. The Ethel pajamas had been thin, gray, and depressing. This Altharian attire was a deep charcoal tunic made of a material that felt like brushed silk, but moved with the resilience of combat armor, paired with simple black trousers and boots. It was practical, comfortable, and made him feel slightly less like a medical specimen. I have to say, your pajamas are much better than the ones from the Ethel, Ethan remarked, sipping a hot, savory broth. Zara had taken him to a private observatory at the apex of the station, a crystalline dome that offered a dizzying view of the Altharian fleet hanging in the void. Much better thread count. Zara, now in a simpler, dark blue uniform, sat across from him. The table was laden with small, intricate dishes. She watched him eat with a quiet intensity. It is not pajamas. It is a standard civilian underweave, and that is not broth. It is a protein resequencing solution. We need to build up your muscle density. Right. Delicious. Protein soup. He put the bowl down. Look, Zara, I appreciate the new threads and the 5-star soup. But we need to talk. I am walking around with a head full of static and hands that can apparently melt slate. You said you wanted my help. Help with what, exactly? Being Your Highness's science experiment. You are not an experiment, she said, her voice sharp, defensive. You are a symbol, and, I hope, an ally. A symbol. You are the human who died to save the Altharian heir. Your sacrifice is a story taught to our children. It is the founding myth of this entire 50-year war. And now, you have returned. She leaned forward. Half my war council believes you are a messiah. The other half believes you are a weapon of mass destruction that will explode and take this station with us. That second half sounds smarter, Ethan muttered. I am leaning their way. I need them to see you as a man, she pressed. The man I remember. You remember a corpse. Zara. The man you remember is gone. His memories, anything, it is all gone. He ran a hand through his new, thick hair. It was strange. He felt no connection to the face in the mirror. A soft chime interrupted them. A tall, imposing figure entered the observatory. He was an older Altharian, his twilight skin mapped with old, white scars. His armor was not the crimson of the guard, but a heavy, burnished gold. He moved with the slow, deliberate gravity of a battleship. Empress, he said, his voice a low rumble. He bowed stiffly, his luminous, pale eyes fixed on Zara, completely ignoring Ethan. The council is assembled. They are awaiting your report on the asset. Ethan raised an eyebrow and pointed at himself with his spoon. I am guessing I am the asset. Zara's expression tightened. Emperor Kaller, thank you. This is Ethan Hale. I am briefing him. Only then did Kaller's gaze shift to Ethan. It was a look of profound, ancient skepticism. He did not see a man. He saw a problem. So, this is it, Kaller said, his voice heavy with disapproval. The ghost, 50 years late. Nice to meet you, too, General, Ethan said, standing up. He was a few inches shorter than the old warrior. I give great hauntings, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Kaller was not amused. He looked back to Zara. Majesty, this is unwise. You brought him to the heart of the command station. You retrieved him without council approval. He is an unknown, a human resurrected by a rogue science cult. Now, manifesting energy readings that are scrambling our sensors. He should be in quarantine. He is in my protection, Kalor, Zara said, her voice dropping to the regal coldness of the throne room. He is the reason our line was not extinguished on Kratos. That affords him more than a cage. That, Kaller said, stepping closer, was a different man. That man was a soldier who died for a cause. This thing remembers nothing. It has no loyalty. It is a power source in a human shell. And power, Empress, always attracts those who wish to use it, or those who wish to destroy it. Ethan felt a flash of anger. I am right here, you know. You can talk to me. Not just about me like I am a piece of furniture. Kaller turned his full, intimidating height on Ethan. Furniture does not annihilate squads of cryo soldiers with its mind. I have read the Ethel Station report. You are a weapon, and I do not know who is holding the trigger. You, or someone else. Before Ethan could retort, Zara raised a hand. Enough, Kaller, your concerns are noted. They are shared by many. Which is why Mr. Hale and I are beginning his integration. Immediately. He needs to understand what he is, and who he was. We are going to the archives. Kaller bowed again. deeper this time. But the disapproval was radiating off him. "As you command, Empress. But be wary. A ghost is still a ghost. It haunts. It does not save." He turned and marched from the room. Ethan let out a long breath. "He is fun." "Does he do parties?" "He's my oldest general," Zara said, rubbing her temples. "He served my father. He sees me as a child, and you as a catastrophe." "He is not entirely wrong, on either count." "Good to know where I stand," Ethan said. "So, the archives. Am I finally going to find out who I am?" "You are going to find out who you were," Zara said, her expression grim. "I hope it is enough." The Imperial Archives were not a room of dusty books. It was a sphere of pulsing light, a neural network made manifest. Zara and Ethan stood on a platform in its center as constellations of data swirled around them. "This is everything," Zara explained, her hands moving through the air, manipulating holographic files. Every battle report, every personal log, every public record from 50 years of war. Great. Where is the Ethan Hale section? She pulled a file from the glowing cloud. It solidified in front of him a service record. Photographs of a man who looked like him, but with colder eyes, smiling with people Ethan did not know. Commendations. A psychological profile. He read it. Ethan Hale, born on Earth, enlisted in the Alliance, cited for bravery, cited for insubordination, a good soldier, but a troubled man. It meant nothing. It was like reading the biography of a stranger. "I do not feel anything," Ethan said, his voice hollow. "This is not me. This is just data." "Look further," Zara urged. She pulled up the Kratos incident. The tactical displays showed the outpost. The Kryal attack. "Your unit was overrun," she narrated softly. "You were on a rescue mission. Your objective was designated Asset Primus. Me," he saw the reports. "Hale, Ethan, confirmed deceased, body vaporized by direct plasma fire. Unrecoverable." "But I was not vaporized," Ethan said. "Just mostly dead. Close enough for government work, I guess." "My father's intelligence division flagged the report. The Kryal do not use plasma cannons of that signature. The energy blast was different. Not Altharian. Not Kryal. Ethel." Ethan finished for her. "They were on site. They shot me." "No," Zara said, her face pale. "They did not shoot you. They were a scavenger team. They were there to recover your body. They detected a unique energy surge before you died. The plasma bolt that hit you was Kryal, but the energy that Ethel detected, it came from you. It was a burst of the same power you used on the station. It must have erupted on your death. A final defensive reflex. It saved me. It shielded the conduit." Ethan stared at the report. "So, I have had this all along, this power." "It seems it was latent, dormant," Zara said. "Your death, and the trauma of the resurrection matrix, unlocked it. Ethel did not give you this power. Ethan. They just woke it up." He felt a chill. He was not just a resurrected soldier. He was something else. Something that had been sleeping inside a man named Ethan Hale. "So why me?" he whispered. "Why did I have that, Zara said. "Is what we need to find out." An alarm suddenly blared. A piercing, urgent siren that shattered the quiet of the archives. Zara's personal guard. 2 Crimson Guard warriors burst onto the platform. Weapons raised. "Empress in emergency, summons to the War Council. It is the Meridian Colony." The Strategic Command Center was a massive amphitheater, dominated by a holographic map of the Altharian Empire. Dozens of officers and analysts moved around its perimeter. On the central dais stood Emperor Kalor and another, younger general, his face grim. This one, Ethan noted, was sleek, professional, and wore a less ornate, more practical uniform. "Report, General Theron," Zara commanded as she swept onto the dais. Ethan, a half-step behind her. Kalor and Theron both registered Ethan's presence. Kalor scowled. Theron's expression was neutral, but his eyes were sharp and curious. "Majesty," Theron said, his voice crisp. "We received this transmission from Meridian just minutes ago. It is bad." He tapped a console. The main hologram zoomed in on a lush, green planet. Then it dissolved into static, replaced by a garbled video feed. A woman in a colonial militia uniform was shouting into the camera. Smoke and an unnatural, sickly yellow fog roiling behind her. "Command, this is Meridian. The Kryal fleet has broken blockade. They are not landing. They are burning the air. It is a biotoxin. Our filters cannot stop it. God, we are dying." The feed cut out, replaced by a flatlining biosignature display for the entire planet. 3 billion people. A heavy silence filled the war room. Ethan felt that cold, instinctive hatred for the Kryal return, a physical sickness in his stomach. "They did not conquer it," Zara whispered, her knuckles white on the console rail. "They exterminated it, a civilian colony." "It is a message," Kalor growled, his voice thick with rage. "They are escalating. They grow desperate. This is savagery. We must meet it with full force. A retaliatory strike on their shipyard at Krell." "A strike on Krell is suicide," General Theron countered, his voice reasonable, but firm. "It is their most heavily fortified position. We would lose half the home fleet for a gesture of revenge. Majesty, this is a tragedy, but it is also a tactical feint. They want us to overextend. The logical move is to pull back our outlying fleets, consolidate, and defend the core worlds." "Defend," Kalor roared. "We abandon our colonies. We let them slaughter billions and we hide. We survive," Theron shot back. "We cannot win a war of attrition. General, you know this. We must be smarter." The council erupted, officers shouting in support of Kalor's aggression or Theron's caution. Zara stood between them, her face a mask of stone, trapped. Ethan watched the hologram of the dead planet. "Theron is wrong," he said, his voice quiet, but it cut through the din. The room fell silent. All eyes turned to him. General Theron fixed him with a cold, condescending stare. "Mr. Hale, this is a military briefing, not a philosophical debate for a civilian." "I may be a civilian now, but I was a soldier," Ethan said, meeting his gaze. "And I know a feint when I see one. But I also know a statement. Kalor is right. This was a message. But you are wrong about what it means. They are not desperate. They are confident. They just wiped out a planet of 3 billion people, and they are not afraid of what we will do. They are inviting Kalor to attack Krell. They are waiting for it." He looked at Zara. "They are not trying to get you to overextend. They are trying to get you to panic, to choose one of 2 bad options: aggression or retreat, both of which they have a counter for. They are not just winning. They are toying with you." Theron's eyes narrowed. "Your tactical insight, based on 0 memory and 0 experience, is noted." "My gut is all I have." "General," Ethan replied, "and right now, it is telling me that you are both playing their game." "Then, what do you suggest, O resurrected one?" Kalor sneered. "I suggest," Ethan said, That we find out how they got through the Meridian blockade without us knowing. Because they did not just punch through. They slipped past. And that means they have a hole in our defenses. Or, he added, looking from Theron to Calor, a friend on the inside. The air grew thick with suspicion. That is enough, Zara commanded. Your observation is astute. Ethan. General Theron, lock down all fleet movements. General Calor. I want a full intelligence review of the Meridian blockade. Find me that hole. She turned and stalked from the room. Ethan followed her, leaving the council in simmering, angry silence. You have a real talent for making friends, Zara said once they were in her private lift. It is a gift, Ethan said. But I meant it, Zara. That was too clean. They knew exactly where and when to hit. You suspect one of my generals. I suspect everyone. I do not have the luxury of memory. I only have what I see. And I see a lot of angry, scared men who would do anything to win, or to not lose. Calor is loyal. He is abrasive, but he would die for Althara. Theron is ambitious, but he is a pragmatist. He would not betray us, not to the Kryl. Maybe, Ethan said. But that power I have, Calor was right. Everyone wants it. The Kryl most of all. His words were more prophetic than he knew. Zara decided his training could not wait. The incident in the archives, combined with his destabilizing presence in the War Council, made it clear. He was a bomb, and she needed to teach him how to be a shield. She assigned him her best Kira, the same Crimson Guard, who had removed her helmet on the transport ship. She was young, disciplined to a terrifying degree, and viewed Ethan with a mixture of awe and clinical distrust. Their training took place in a kilometers-deep, shielded vault beneath the station. Your power is raw, Kira explained, her voice echoing in the vast, empty space. She was circling him like a predator. It is chaotic. You use it like a club. When you blasted the gantry on Ethel, you nearly blew out the ship's engines behind you. It is undirected, useless, unless you want to just break things. Breaking things seems to be my one useful skill, Ethan quipped, stretching his arms. Today, you will learn not to, she said. She activated a console. A small, hovering drone, the size of his fist, detached from the wall and zipped toward his head. He flinched and threw up a hand. A wave of force exploded from him, smashing the drone into metallic dust. Failure, Kira said flatly. You used a sledgehammer to kill a fly, and you missed the second one. A bolt of blue energy hit Ethan in the back, sending him sprawling. He gasped, the pain sharp and electric. A second drone hovered where he had been standing. Get up, Kira ordered. Focus. Do not push. Will it... See the energy. Guide it. For hours. She tormented him. She shot at him. Threw things at him. Sent drones at him. And every time he reacted, it was with too much force. Or not enough. The power was wild, instinctual, tied to his fear and his anger. I cannot do it! He finally yelled, exhausted, after a dozen more stings. It does not listen. It just happens. Then make it happen, Kira snapped, her patience finally breaking. She activated a new program. Not one or two drones. A swarm. 24 of them poured from the walls, all firing low-intensity stun bolts. Block them all. Human, she commanded. Or you will not be getting up for a week. Ethan was overwhelmed. Bolts rained down on him. He cried out, not in pain, but in sheer panic. He felt the power surge. A desperate, reflexive no. It was not a wave. It was an explosion. A sphere of white-hot energy erupted from his body. It did not just block the drones. It disintegrated them. The shockwave continued outward, striking the heavily shielded walls of the vault. The entire station groaned. Red emergency lights flashed. Alarms shrieked. Ethan collapsed to his knees, shaking, the vault suddenly, terrifyingly silent. He looked at his hands, horrified. Kira stood by the console, her face ashen, her usual composure shattered. She was staring at the wall, at a new, hairline fracture that was weeping molten metal. "By the ancestors," she whispered, her voice trembling. You almost breached the containment. The power levels... You could have cracked this station's spine." Ethan stared at the damage, his breath catching in his throat. He was not just a weapon. He was a doomsday device. He was terrified, not of Kira, not of the Cryol. He was terrified of himself. "I did not mean to," he whispered. I lost it." Kira looked at him, her skepticism and distrust now replaced by a cold, hard fear. "The Empress is wrong. You are not a symbol. You are a curse." The training incident had severe consequences. General Keller, upon seeing the damage reports, was furious. He marched into Zara's private study, Ethan and Kira already present, and threw a data slate onto her desk. "This is unacceptable, Empress. He fractured a primary bulkhead. He is unstable, untrained, and a clear and present danger to every soul on this station. The Council demands he be placed in null energy containment. For his safety, and for ours." "He is not a prisoner, Keller," Zara said, though her voice was strained. She looked at Ethan, her disappointment clear. "I am not asking," Keller roared. "I am telling you, as head of your military, that you have an unexploded bomb in your chambers. Confine him, or I will." "You will not," Zara said, her voice dropping to a deadly quiet. "You forget your place, General. And you forget yours." "Majesty," Keller shot back, "you are not a child playing with a new toy. You are an Empress losing a war, and this creature is making it worse." "Get out, Keller," Ethan said, his voice low. Keller turned on him. "What did you say? Human?" "I said, get out." Ethan stood up. He felt the power thrumming, but this time it was not panic. It was a cold, controlled anger. "You are yelling at your Empress. You are blaming her for me, and you are wrong. I am not her toy, and I am not your problem. I am trying to fix this. You are just loud." Keller stared, his hand dropping to his sidearm. Kira tensed, ready to intervene. Zara raised her hand. "He is right. Keller, you are dismissed. We will discuss this later." Keller looked from Zara's unflinching gaze to Ethan's quiet menace. He seethed, then bowed sharply. "As you wish, but when he destroys us all, remember this day." He turned and stormed out. Silence descended. "Well," Ethan said, sitting back down. "I think that went well." "No," Zara said, burying her face in her hands. "It did not. He is right. You are dangerous. And I am protecting you when I should be protecting my people." "Zara," Ethan said gently, "I am sorry. I did not. I do not know how to control it." "Then learn," she said, her voice muffled. "Learn fast, because I am running out of allies." She looked up, her eyes tired and red. "I am going to my quarters. I need to think. Kira, you are with me. Ethan, just stay here. Do not break anything else." She swept out, Kira following, leaving Ethan alone in the opulent study, feeling more isolated than he ever had. He was a monster, a curse, a bomb. Later that evening, he could not rest. He paced the study, the general's accusations ringing in his ears. He was a danger. He had to get this right. He closed his eyes, trying to will the power as Kira had said. He focused, not on a push, but on a pull. He felt the energy in his hands, that familiar, terrifying hum. He needed to see Zara. He needed to tell her he could fix this. He left the study, heading for her private quarters. A section of the station he knew was heavily guarded, but as he approached the main corridor, he sensed something wrong. The two Crimson Guard posted at the entrance were not at attention. They were slumped against the wall, unconscious. An ambush! He did not hesitate. He ran. He burst through the doors to her quarters. The scene was chaotic. Zara was on the floor, behind an overturned table, a small pulse pistol in her hand. 3 soldiers in black, unmarked Altharian armor were advancing on her, firing methodically. And standing behind them, a heavy pulse rifle aimed at Zara, was General Theron. "I am truly sorry, my Empress," Theron was saying, his voice calm and reasonable. "But your sentimentality has doomed us. Your attachment to this thing has blinded you. The War Council has decided a new leader is required, one who is not afraid to make the hard choices." "Theron, you," Zara gasped, firing a shot that sizzled against Theron's personal shield. "The Council," she spat. "Or the Cryol," Theron almost smiled. "The winning side. Majesty. Now this will be painless." He aimed his rifle for the kill shot. "Hey!" Ethan yelled from the doorway. All 3 soldiers and Theron spun, surprised. "Kill the human!" Theron roared. "Take the Empress." They all opened fire. Plasma bolts converged on Ethan. He had no time to think, no time to panic, no time for a sledgehammer. He just had to save Zara. He threw his hands up. He did not push. He did not explode. He willed. The energy that left him was different. It was not a wave. It was precise, focused. It streamed from his fingers like liquid light. A shimmering, translucent shield appeared in front of him, absorbing the plasma bolts like a sponge. But he did not stop there. With his other hand, he guided the energy. A tendril, like a glowing whip, lashed out. It wrapped around the rifle of the first soldier and pulled, yanking the weapon from his grasp. A second tendril struck another soldier in the chest, not burning him, but hitting him with the force of a freight train, sending him flying into the bulkhead. It was controlled. It was precise. It was beautiful. "What is this?" Theron stammered, his composure breaking. The third soldier charged Ethan. Ethan met him not with energy, but with his fists, his resurrected body moving with speed and strength he did not know he possessed. He disarmed the soldier in a blur of motion. Theron, seeing his plan collapse, dropped his rifle and lunged for Zara, a vibrating energy knife appearing in his hand. "No!" Ethan roared. He reached out one hand. He did not push Theron. He pulled the air from his path, creating a micro-vacuum that staggered the general. In that instant, Ethan crossed the room. He grabbed Theron by the throat, lifting him clean off the floor. His hand began to glow, the raw, white energy from the vault returning. Theron's armor began to smoke. Theron screamed. "Ethan, stop!" Zara yelled, scrambling to her feet. "Do not kill him. We need him. We need to know who he is working with." Ethan stared at Theron, his vision red. He felt that Crail hatred, that deep animal instinct to destroy. The power in his hand roared, begging to be released. He wanted to turn this traitor to ash. He heard her voice, "We need him." He fought the impulse. He fought the raw power. With a guttural yell, he mastered it. The white light in his hand faded, though the energy still hummed. He slammed Theron against the wall, the impact cracking the stone. And the general slumped, unconscious. Silence. The room was destroyed. Ethan was breathing heavily, his arm still outstretched. The doors burst open and Kira ran in, followed by Kaller and a dozen Crimson Guard. They had obviously fought their way through Theron's outer guards. They skidded to a halt, taking in the scene, the neutralized soldiers, the unconscious, high-ranking general, Zara, alive and unharmed, and Ethan standing over the traitor, his hand still crackling with residual power. Kira stared, not at Theron, but at Ethan. Her fear was gone. It was replaced by a new, stunning, grudging respect. Kaller looked at Theron, then at Zara. "Majesty, General Theron is a traitor," Zara said, her voice shaking but firm. "He was working for the Cryol. He tried to kill me." Kaller's face went white with rage. He looked at the neutralized soldiers, the minimal damage, and then at Ethan. His expression was for the first time completely unreadable. He did not see a bomb. He did not see a ghost. He saw the man who had just saved his Empress. Later. Theron was in a high-security holding cell. Kaller and Zara watched him through a shielded window. He was awake. And he was defiant. "You are weak, Zara," he spat at the window. "You rely on an abomination. The Cryol will win. They are stronger, smarter, and I will be rewarded." Kaller turned away, disgusted. The Meridian attack. He helped them. He gave them the codes to slip the blockade. "I know," Zara said. Ethan was leaning against the wall nearby, his arms crossed. "He was right about one thing," he said. Zara looked at him, surprised. "You are sentimental," Ethan said. "You should have let me fry him." Zara walked over to him. She stood very close. "And I was right about one thing," she replied, her voice soft. "You are not a monster. You heard me. You stopped." He looked down at her. The Empress was gone. It was just Zara. And the man who had been her ghost was gone. It was just him. "This just got a lot harder, did not it?" he said. "The Cryol are inside your command structure." "Yes, but now we know," he said, looking at his hands. He was not afraid of them anymore. They were not just clubs. They were tools. "And now, we know what I can do." He met her gaze. "So, what is next, boss? We have a traitor to interrogate, and we have a war to win." Zara allowed herself a small, tired, but very real smile. The unspoken word "together" hung in the air, charged with the smell of ozone, the memory of betrayal, and a new, fragile, and utterly terrifying hope. "Next," she said, "we hunt." The interrogation of General Theron was short, brutal, and largely uninformative. He sat in the null energy cell, stripped of his rank and armor. Yet he radiated an unshakable, smug confidence. "You have nothing," he sneered at Zara, who watched him from the observation room. Ethan stood beside her, his arms crossed. Kaller was in the cell with Theron, his massive frame coiled with a violence he was barely restraining. "We have your confession," Keller's voice boomed, rattling the shielded glass. "You admitted to working with the Cryol. You admitted to the Meridian massacre." "I admitted to a tactical decision," Theron said, examining his fingernails. "A necessary call. You are bleeding our empire dry, old man, clinging to a sentimental child." He looked past Kaller, his eyes finding Zara through the glass. "She is weak. She relies on an abomination." His gaze shifted to Ethan. You are the proof." "Who else?" Ethan's voice was quiet, broadcast into the cell. You did not do this alone, Theron. That assassination attempt was too clean, but your escape plan was sloppy. You were a pawn. Who were you protecting? Who was the real traitor? Theron chuckled. You are smarter than you look, Ghost. But you are wrong. I am not protecting anyone. I am a true believer. You are a greedy fool who got caught, Keller spat. Was I? Theron smiled. Or did I do exactly what I was meant to do? Before Keller could respond, the station's primary alarm blared. It was not a drill. It was not a localized alert. It was the fleet-wide. All hands call to battle stations. The deep, resonating whump of the station's shields activating vibrated through the floor. What is this? Zara demanded, turning to the comms unit. A panicked analyst's voice came over the speaker. Empress multiple. Multiple massive fold space ruptures. Directly on top of our position it is. By the ancestors. It is the Creole home fleet. Their entire fleet. Theron began to laugh. A full, hearty, triumphant laugh. You think I was the threat, you fools. I was just a distraction. Put him on ice, Zara snapped. Her face pale, but her voice firm. She was already moving, sprinting for the command center. Keller, get the fleet online. All wings. Scramble, Ethan. Kira, with me. Kira, who had been standing silent guard at the door, fell in step, her face a mask of grim determination. Ethan ran beside Zara, the implications of Theron's laughter landing like a physical blow. This was not a raid. This was an invasion. They burst into the command center to a scene of controlled pandemonium. The vast, holographic map at the center of the room was terrifying. The silver icons of the Altharian fleet were a handful of minnows surrounded by a swarm of obsidian sharks. Hundreds of Kryal capital ships had appeared, bypassing every long-range sensor. A surgical strike aimed directly at the heart of the Empire. How Keller roared as he took his station, slamming his fists on the console. How did they get our positions? How did they bypass the sentry fields? Theron, Zara said. Her voice a low, cold fury. He did not just give them Meridian. He gave them everything. Shields at 80%, an analyst yelled. The first wave is hitting. They are not trying to disable us. They are firing ship killers. They are trying to crack the station. The command center lurched violently, throwing several officers from their feet. A massive, red icon flared on the map as one of the Altharian heavy cruisers, the Indomitable, was vaporized by concentrated fire. This is a slaughter, Kira said, her hand on her sidearm, her eyes fixed on the map. They are not just attacking. They are executing us. Return fire, Zara commanded, her voice cutting through the panic. Focus on their lead, Dreadnought. I want it broken. Empress, Keller said, his voice grim. Their lead ship is the Scourge. Their flagship. Its shields are... They are not taking damage. Ethan watched the tactical display. The Altharian fleet, brave and outnumbered, was being systematically dismantled. This was not a battle. It was a rout. This is not a political game. Is it? Ethan said, his voice quiet. He looked at Zara. They are here to kill you, and everyone else is just in the way. They are here to end this. Forever, Zara replied, her gaze never leaving the map. Another explosion rocked the station. Closer, this time. Deck 12 is breached, an analyst cried. We have boarders. Kryal shock troops are in the lower levels. They are cutting us apart, Keller said. Ethan closed his eyes. He felt the hum of the station, the thrum of its engines, the vibration of the thousands of souls aboard it. And he felt the energy inside himself, That terrifying, limitless well of power. He had been so afraid of it. Afraid of breaking things. "Kira," he said, opening his eyes. "You said I use a sledgehammer." Kira looked at him, confused by the question in the middle of a battle. "Yes, you are unsubtle." "Good," Ethan said, "because I am about to bring down the whole damn mountain." He walked to the edge of the dais, placing his hands on the transparent viewport that overlooked the battle. He could see the scourge itself, a kilometers-long blade of black metal, its main cannon glowing as it prepared to fire again. "Ethan, what are you doing?" Zara yelled. "My job, apparently." He closed his eyes and pushed. It was not a beam. It was not a wave. It was a projection. He took the chaotic energy inside him and gave it a shape. He imagined a shield, a vast, translucent wall in space, mirroring the station's own failing energy screen. The command center floor groaned. The lights flickered. "What is he doing?" Kalor demanded. "His energy readings, they are overloading the entire grid." Outside, the scourge fired, a beam of pure, incandescent white energy, wide as a city block, lanced through space. It struck the Altharian shields, and they shattered like glass. The beam continued, aimed at the command tower, and then it hit Ethan's shield. The command center was bathed in a blinding white light. Ethan roared, his muscles straining, veins standing out on his neck. He was not just blocking the beam, he was holding it. The energy was not raw power anymore. It was an extension of his will. He felt the beam's photonic pressure, the ungodly heat. He screamed, and with a final, desperate surge, he deflected it. The beam, diverted by his invisible shield, sliced harmlessly past the station, cutting the top off a nearby cryol cruiser that had strayed too close. The command center was silent. Everyone was staring at him. Ethan was on one knee, breathing like he had run a marathon, sweat pouring from his face. "Well," he panted, looking at his trembling hands. "That is, new." Keller's mouth was open. Kira just stared, her expression of respect now bordering on religious awe. Zara ran to him. "Ethan, are you all right?" "Just need to catch my breath," he gasped. 50 years dead. Really bad for your cardio." The battle was still raging, but there was a new, stunned pause in the cryol attack. "They are hesitating," Kaller breathed, looking at the map. "They saw that. They are recalculating." But as Ethan knelt, catching his breath, the light of the deflected beam, the specific, sickly white-yellow of the cryol weapon, triggered something. A flash, not a thought, a memory. He was not on the station. He was on Kratos, the yellow sky, the sulfur. He was holding Zara. She was so small, he was yelling. Not at the cryol. He was yelling at a man, a human, in an Earth Alliance uniform. "What are you doing?" The memory of Ethan screamed. "We are not supposed to be here. This is an Altharian retrieval, not an ambush." The human soldier, his face hidden by a visor, raised his rifle. "Orders are orders. Hail. The Altharian heir is too valuable to leave to the Altharians. We are securing the asset." "She is a child," Memory Ethan roared. "She is a key. Now step aside." "No." And then, from the ridge, Altharian soldiers, Zara's father's royal guard. They saw the humans. They saw them threatening the air. They opened fire. The humans fired back. It was humans and Altharians, fighting and dying, before the first cryol ship even landed. The cryol had not attacked. They had intervened. They had shown up to the party after it had already started. Ethan staggered to his feet in the command center, the vision fading, leaving a cold, sick dread in its place. He turned to Zara. "You lied to me." "What?" She was stunned, the battle forgotten for a second. "Ethan, what are you talking about?" "Kratos." His voice was low, dangerous. "You told me I died saving you from the cryo. You told me my sacrifice started the war." It did," she stammered. "No," he said, advancing on her. "It did not. It was a lie. We were not there to save you. My squad. My Earth Alliance squad. We were there to kidnap you. Weren't we?" The color drained from Zara's face. Kaller and Kira looked on, confused. "Ethan, now is not the time." "It was a three-way fight," he yelled, his voice cracking. "My people, your people, and the cryo. My sacrifice was not a sacrifice. I was a loose end. I was the idiot soldier who grew a conscience and got in the way. I did not start this war by saving you. I started it by failing to steal you." "It was complex," Zara whispered, her eyes pleading. "My father. Your alliance. They were in secret talks. The cryo attack it was not planned. But my being there was..." He felt a profound sense of nausea. His entire life, his entire death, was a lie. My heroic last stand was just me getting caught in the crossfire of a botched kidnapping. And this entire 50-year war. This mythology is built on that lie. He looked at the tactical map, at the dying ships. I am not a symbol. I am not a messiah. I am a political pawn. You did not resurrect me because you owed me. You resurrected me to use me. A walking, talking, superpowered lie to rally your troops. "No," Zara said, tears welling in her eyes. "That is not true. I remembered. I remembered a man who saved me. The politics. The politics are everything," he shouted. "Empress," Kaller interrupted, his voice dire. "The scourge, it is moving. It is not firing. It is on a collision course. It is ramming us." They all looked. The massive dreadnought, shrugging off laser fire, was accelerating. Its bow pointed directly at the command tower. "Evacuate," Zara commanded, snapping back to the present. "Get everyone out. Seal the tower." Alarms shrieked. Officers began to run for the exits. "It is too fast," Kira said, grabbing Zara's arm. "We have to go. Now." Kaller was already at the main door, ushering people out. "Go to the secondary bridge." Ethan stood frozen, not by fear, but by the crushing weight of the revelation. His entire purpose was a fraud. "Ethan, come on." Zara pulled at his arm. He let her pull him. They ran for the main blast door as the command center emptied. The scourge filled the entire viewport, a mountain of black metal about to end them all. "Kaller, seal it," Zara yelled as they cleared the threshold. The massive blast door began to slide shut. But something was wrong. Another door, a secondary security bulkhead they had already passed, slammed shut behind them, sealing them in the short corridor between the command center and the rest of the station. "Wow, what is this?" Zara yelled, pounding on the door ahead of them. "Kaller, open it!" Kaller's voice came over the comm, tinny and panicked. "Majesty, I am not controlling that door. The system is locked. It is locked from inside that corridor with you." Ethan and Zara spun around. Kira was standing by the inner door's control panel, her hand on the console. She was not panicked. She was perfectly, terrifyingly calm. In her other hand, she held a small, black device, a plasma detonator. "Kira." Ethan's voice was a hoarse whisper, his mind already reeling from one betrayal. could not process this one. "What are you doing?" "I am sorry, Ethan," she said, and her voice was genuinely sad. "I truly am. I have come to admire you, but you are a complication. Kira, you—" Zara was breathless. "Theron. He worked for you." "Theron was an idiot," Kira said, her voice filled with a cold, clear fanaticism. "He was motivated by cryol credits. I am motivated by divine purpose. Theron's assassination was a test. I needed to see how powerful you truly were." "A test," Ethan said, horrified. "He would have killed her. And if he had, she would have been a martyr, a worthy sacrifice," Kira said. "You, however, were too good. You saved her. You showed me that you are the real threat, not the cryol." You are not cryol," Zara whispered. "I am a true Altharian," Kira spat, her eyes glowing with a zealot's fire. "Our empire is weak, decadent, corrupted by alien philosophies." She glanced at Ethan. "Corrupted by you. Your very existence is a perversion. This war is a gift, a fire to cleanse us. The cryol are the flame, and I am the hand that guides it. When they are done, a new, pure, strong Althara will rise from the ashes. I will be its regent." "You are insane," Zara said. "I am a patriot," Kira countered. She held up the detonator. "The Scourge will breach the hull. This detonator will ensure the breach happens here. Cryol's special forces are waiting. They will take the Empress. I will heroically die at her side, only to be rescued later. You will just die." The entire station shuddered. The Scourge was seconds away. "You plotted to kill Zara," Ethan said, the words tasting like ash. "You who trained me. You who I—" He could not say it. Trusted. "It was not personal," Kira said. "It feels pretty damn personal." Ethan roared. "Ethan," Zara said, her voice urgent, grabbing his arm. She pointed at the ceiling viewport. The Scourge was blocking out the stars. "You have to choose. You can use your power. You can stop that ship. You can try to push it off course." "But if he does," Kira said, smiling, "he will be drained and I will take you. Or he can fight me, and that ship will kill us all. What will it be? Ghost, your Empress, or your own life?" Ethan looked at the ship. He looked at Kira, his newest friend, his most profound betrayer. He looked at Zara, the woman he had died for, the woman who had lied to him, the woman he cared about. "This is a stupid choice," Ethan said. He was tired. Tired of war. Tired of lies. Tired of being a cosmic plaything. He turned to Kira, a small, tired smile on his face. "You are right about one thing. I am just a man." "A flawed, sentimental one," she agreed. "No," he said, "a very fast learner." He did not look at the ship. He did not look at Kira. He looked at the floor, and he pushed. It was not a shield. It was not a beam. It was an explosion. A focused, controlled detonation of raw, concussive force aimed straight down. The deck plating beneath their feet vaporized. Kira screamed, her calm shattering, as the floor vanished. The three of them, Ethan, Zara, and Kira, plummeted into the darkness of the service level below. A split second later, the Scourge struck the command tower. The impact was silent in the vacuum. But the flash of the explosion was brighter than a sun, obliterating the entire top section of the station, the exact spot where they had been standing. They landed in a heap of sparks and twisted conduits. 10 levels down. The impact was brutal. Ethan felt ribs crack, but his power, even in that split second, had formed a thin cushion, saving them from being pulverized. He was on his feet in an instant, his body screaming in protest. The power inside him drained to a dull, aching ember. Zara was gasping, winded but alive. Kira was scrambling to her feet, her fanaticism replaced by a wild, animal fury. "You!" she shrieked, raising her sidearm. Ethan did not wait. He grabbed Zara's hand. "Run!" He pulled her into the darkness of the service corridor as Kira opened fire, plasma bolts searing the air where they had been. The station was screaming around them, the metal groaning as it died, invaded and torn apart. They were alive, but they were now trapped, hunted by the Creole from without, and by a traitor from within. The service corridor was a metal gullet, choking on smoke and screaming alarms. Red emergency lights painted everything in a rhythmic, bloody strobe. Ethan hauled Zara to her feet, his ribs a jagged fire in his chest. His power was a hollow ache, a drained battery. "This way," he yelled, pulling her toward a ladder marked with descending deck numbers. The station groaned around them, the sound of a giant beast dying. "Kira, she will follow," Zara gasped, scrambling after him. "She knows the station's layout better than anyone. She designed the security protocols." "Good," Ethan grunted, kicking open a hatch. "Let her. She is expecting us to run from her. We are running to something." "To what? We are trapped. The command tower is gone." "We need a ship, or an elevator," Ethan said, his mind racing. He was operating on pure, desperate instinct. The memory of Kratos, the lie. Zara's betrayal, it was all still there, a toxic sludge in his gut. But the immediate threat was simpler. A traitor with a gun, an invading army. "Where is the nearest shuttle bay? Deck 30, main concourse," Zara answered, her voice regaining its command. "But it will be a war zone, the Kryl borders." "It is our only chance." A plasma bolt seared the bulkhead where Zara's head had just been. They both dove as Kira appeared on the gantry above them, her face a mask of cold fury. "You cannot run! Ghost!" she shouted, firing again. "You are weak. You spent all your power on that cheap trick." "It worked, did not it?" Ethan yelled back, pulling Zara behind a thick power conduit. He had no weapon, no power, just a splitting headache and a very angry traitor. "Kira," Zara pleaded, "stop this, you are Altharian. The Kryl are destroying us, your own people. They are cleansing us." Kira shrieked, advancing, her pulse rifle firing methodical bursts. "And you, my Empress, are the first stain to be removed." "Cover," Ethan yelled. He grabbed a loose, heavy data cable from the wall. As Kira rounded the conduit, he swung it. It was a primitive, stupid move. But it was unexpected. Kira, focused on her rifle, was not expecting a physical strike. The heavy cable connector, swung with all of Ethan's resurrected strength, struck her arm. She cried out, her aim spoiled, the rifle clattering over the gantry's edge. She did not hesitate. She drew her sidearm with her other hand. Impressive, human, but not fast enough. A new voice, a deep, familiar roar, echoed through the corridor. "She is not, but I am." A blast of heavy plasma fire erupted from the far end of the gantry. Kira screamed and dove for cover as the shots hammered her position. General Keller emerged from the smoke, his golden armor blackened and scorched, a massive pulse cannon in his hands. He was followed by a half-dozen Crimson Guard, the battered remnants of his command. "Keller!" Zara cried out, her voice breaking with relief. "Majesty!" Keller bellowed. He advanced, his cannon laying down suppressing fire. "Get to the elevators. We will hold this." Abomination. "No," Ethan yelled. "She is too dangerous. We stay together." Kira was pinned. She looked at Keller's heavy assault squad, then at Ethan and Zara. She was cut off. With a final snarl of hatred, she activated something on her wrist. A blinding flash erupted, and when they looked again, she was gone. "A personal teleporter," Kaller growled, joining them. "Coward, she has fled." "She is not fleeing," Ethan said, shaking his head. "She is relocating. She knows where we are going. She will be there waiting for us." "Then we will be waiting for her," Kaller said. He turned his scarred, grim face to Zara and bowed deeply. "Empress, the station is lost. The scourge broke our spine. The fleet is in chaos. But the planetary defenses are holding. We must get you to the surface, to the Citadel." "Agreed," Zara said, her composure absolute once more. She was an empress again. "The elevators." "This way," Kaller said, leading them at a dead run. "My men will form a perimeter." The main concourse was a vision of hell. The station's internal gravity was failing, fluctuating in sickening lurches. Bodies, Altharian and Kryol, floated in the zero-gravity sections, drifting through clouds of frozen blood. The fighting was savage, hand-to-hand in the corridors. Kaller's remaining guard fought like demons, their crimson armor a beacon in the chaos as they carved a path to the main elevator terminus. It was a massive, vaulted chamber the size of a stadium, with a dozen colossal elevator cars designed to ferry millions to the planet's surface. Most were destroyed, but one, at the far end, still showed green lights. "There!" Ethan yelled, pointing. And then she appeared. Kira. She was standing on the roof of the elevator car, not alone, but flanked by a dozen Kryol shock troops, the massive insectoid monsters. "You see, Empress." Kira's voice echoed through the ruined terminus. "The Kryol are not my masters. They are my tools. They obey the new, true Althara." "She made a deal with them," Zara said, horrified. "She promised them. Me. And she delivered," Ethan said, looking past Kira. A new figure was stepping from the shadows of the elevator. He was not a standard Kryol soldier. He was tall, almost as tall as Kaller, but unnervingly slender. He wore no helmet. His carapace was a deep, iridescent purple. Not metallic, but organic. His face was a narrow, aristocratic arrangement of shifting mandibles and 4 glowing, intelligent red eyes. He moved with a liquid grace that belied his size. He was not a soldier. He was a prince. "Empress Zara," the creature said, his voice a sibilant, cultured whisper that slithered into their minds. "A pleasure." "And Kira, my dear, you have brought me a prize I did not expect." His 4 eyes focused on Ethan. "The ghost, the anomaly, the human who burns." "Who are you?" Ethan demanded. "I am Lord Malachor," the creature said, bowing mockingly. "And I am the one who has hunted your pathetic, fledgling species since before you learned to harness fire. Your Earth Alliance. Your precious humanity. They are a plague, a virus that spreads through the galaxy, and I am the cure." You led the attack on Kratos," Ethan said, a fractured memory of that purple carapace flashing in his mind. "I did," Malachor agreed pleasantly. "I was there to retrieve the Altharian key. A simple matter, until your clumsy, thieving human squad interfered. And then you. You did something, did you not? Human as you died. You screamed. Not with your voice, but with your power. A little ripple across the universe. A ripple I felt. It was delicious." He stepped forward, his Creole guards raising their rifles. "I have spent 50 years studying that echo, And now, the source has returned to me. Kira, kill the old one. Bring me the Empress and the ghost. Bring them to me on the surface. We have unfinished business. Malachor smiled, a chilling click of mandibles, and stepped backward into the elevator. The doors began to close. Kalar, no, Zara screamed. But Kalar was already moving. He was not attacking. He was charging the elevator, his cannon firing, not at Malachor, but at the control panel beside it. The station is dead, Majesty, Kalar roared, as Kira and the Kryal opened fire on him. But Althar must live. He slammed his massive shoulder into the elevator door, forcing it open a crack, just as his own guards were cut down. Go Lev, avenge us. He bodily threw his last thermal detonator into the elevator car, just as the doors sealed. Kira, trapped on the outside, shrieked in rage. Fool. Aye. The elevator car exploded from within. The blast was contained, but the shockwave blew Kira and her Kryal squad from the roof. The car, now a flaming wreck, began to plummet down the shaft. He is gone, Zara whispered, tears streaming down her face as she stared at the empty space where Kalar had been. He bought us a second, Ethan said, his voice raw. He grabbed her hand. He was right. We have to go. He looked at the only other door, a maintenance shaft. Come on. They scrambled into the shaft as Kira, recovering, roared for her remaining troops. They did not take another elevator. They fell. They slid and fell down the emergency ladders, deck by deck, the station tearing itself apart around them. They finally landed in a deep, planetary-bound cargo bay, tumbling out amidst a hail of debris. An old, scarred cargo transport, a rock hopper, sat in the bay, its lights flickering. "Can you fly this thing?" Ethan yelled, blasting the door's lock mechanism with a weak pulse of energy. "I am an Empress," Zara replied, climbing into the pilot's seat. "I can fly anything." The cargo ship's engines screamed to life. They blasted out of the dying station, a tiny spark escaping a colossal funeral pyre. The station Althara, the heart of the fleet, broke apart, splitting in two, the debris field becoming a ring of fire around the planet. Their descent was a fiery, uncontrolled plunge. Zara fought the controls, her face a mask of concentration as alarms blared. They smashed through the atmosphere, the ship's hull glowing cherry red. When Ethan looked out the viewport, he saw that the war was not over. It had just moved. The sky over the capital city of Althar was black, with Kryal landers. The planetary defenses, magnificent spires of light, were dueling with the orbiting destroyers. The city itself, a breathtaking landscape of white towers and green, terraced parks, was burning. "They are everywhere," Zara breathed, her voice hollow. "Where is the Citadel? Where is your command center?" Ethan asked. "There," she pointed, "in the center of the city, a mountain of white stone and crystal, a fortress that seemed to grow from the planet itself. If we can get there." "We will," Ethan said. "Just try to miss the buildings." The ship crashed, skidding through a public plaza, tearing up fountains and ancient trees, and finally slamming to a halt against the Citadel's outer wall. They stumbled out, bruised and battered, into a full-scale ground war. Kryal soldiers were swarming the plaza, battling the Altharian household guard. The air smelled of plasma and burning marble. "This way!" Zara yelled, pulling Ethan toward a hidden entrance. "We can get to the throne room, to the central command." They fought their way through the palace, a blur of close-quarters combat. Zara was a warrior, her pulse pistol never missing. Ethan's power was slowly returning, a trickle of energy, and he used it, not as a beam, but as a physical enhancement. his fists and feet moving with supernatural speed, shattering cryo carapaces. They finally reached the throne room. It was not the command center they had hoped for. It was a ruin. The great crystal dome was shattered, open to the smoky sky. And in the center, standing where Zara's throne should have been, was Lord Malachor. He was not alone. Kira was at his side, her armor pristine, her face glowing with triumph. "Welcome home, Empress," Malachor whispered, his voice echoing in the vast, ruined chamber. "You see, Kira knew you would come here. So predictable. This is where your father died. Is it not? You." Zara raised her pistol, but a flick of Malachor's wrist sent it flying from her hand. A dark, purple energy, a twisted mockery of Ethan's own, held it in the air before crushing it into slag. Ethan stepped in front of Zara, his own hands glowing with a faint, white light. His power was back, but he could feel Malachor's. It was ancient, cold, and overwhelmingly strong. "So, the echo has a bark," Malachor mused, his red eyes fixed on Ethan. "Tell me, human, do you know why you hate me? That visceral, animal rage you feel?" "You are a genocidal monster," Ethan spat. "Yes, there is that," Malachor agreed. "But it is more. It is racial memory. My kind, the Cryol. We were ancient when your ancestors were still painting on cave walls. We were peaceful, explorers, philosophers, until we met you." "What are you talking about?" Ethan said. 1,000 years ago, an Earth Alliance long-range exploratory vessel, the Archangel, found one of our first colonies, a world of children, a nursery. Your people did not greet us. They did not talk. They sterilized. Malachor's voice grew cold. "They saw our young as a threat, an infestation. They burned our world. They killed billions of our children. I was there. I was one of the few who escaped. I watched my species die, and I vowed that the human virus would be scoured from this galaxy." "That is impossible," Ethan said, but a cold dread filled him. 1,000 years ago. Your people hide their history well, but the universe does not forget. Malachor's purple energy began to swirl around him. "This war is not for territory. It is not for politics. It is extermination. It is the justice I have waited a millennium to deliver. And you are the perfect irony." "What? That power you hold," Malachor hissed, his aristocratic calm breaking. "It is not human. It is ours. The energy of the universe. We, my people, we were learning to touch it, to become one with it. It is our birthright. And somehow, your filthy, murderous species, you manifested it. You are an abomination, a thief. You stole our future. And today, I take it back." He raised his hand. The sky above the broken dome darkened. The Cryol ships overhead began to glow, not with weapons fire, but with a terrible, gathering energy, channeling it, focusing it on Malachor. "Kira," he commanded, "kill the Empress. The ghost is mine." Kira smiled and advanced on Zara, drawing a long, curved Altharian blade. "This is for the future." Majesty, Zara, unarmed, backed away, her eyes darting, looking for a weapon, a chance. "No," Ethan said. He did not look at Kira. He looked at Malachor. "You cannot fight us both, human." Malachor laughed, as the energy from the sky began to pour into him, making his form shimmer and distort. He was becoming a god of dark energy. "I do not have to," Ethan said. He closed his eyes. He remembered Kira's words. You use a sledgehammer. He remembered his own fear. I am a bomb. He smiled. You are right, I am. He did not try to fight Malachor. He did not try to save Zara. He let go. He released every drop of power, every iota of the resurrected, chaotic, limitless energy that Ethel had woken. He did not push it out. He pulled it in. Ethan, no, Zara screamed, realizing what he was doing. What is this? What are you doing? Malachor roared as Ethan's white light flared, becoming a blinding, pure, agonizing white. Kira stopped, her eyes wide with terror, as the power Ethan was releasing became a torrent. It was not a shield. It was not a weapon. It was a vortex. You want this power, Malachor. Ethan's voice was no longer human. It was a chorus, a sound of stars being born. You won our birthright, then take it. He did not just pull his own energy. He pulled Malachor's. The purple energy, the dark power Malachor was drawing from his fleet, suddenly had a new target. It ripped from Malachor's control and lanced across the throne room, pouring into Ethan. No, stop, you do not know what you are doing. Malachor shrieked, as his own power turned against him, feeding his enemy. You will kill us. All you will unmake this world. I know, Ethan roared back. He was a sun, a star, a god of pure, unstable light. He was absorbing all of it. The power of the Creole fleet, the power of Malachor, the power of his own soul. It was too much. It was tearing him apart. He had to release it, but not here. Not on Althar. With his last, final conscious act, he focused all of it, every drop. He looked at Malachor. He looked at Kira, and he pushed it. Not out, but through. He ripped a hole in space. It was not a black hole. It was a pinprick, a singularity, a one-way door to nowhere, the vortex. Now, armed with all that stolen power, became a hungry mouth. It ripped Malachor from his feet. He screamed, a sound of pure terror as he was drawn in, his purple energy flaring and then vanishing into the void. No! Kira shrieked, trying to run, but the pull was too strong. She, too, was lifted, her body dissolving into atoms as she was dragged into the microscopic tear. The vortex then turned its hunger to the sky. The cryol ships in orbit, the ones that had been feeding Malachor, were suddenly leashed. The singularity, now stabilized for a fraction of a second, pulled. One by one, the dreadnoughts and destroyers were dragged from the sky, their engines failing, their hulls screaming as they were pulled. Through. The sky was cleared of the cryol fleet in less than 10 seconds. And then, silence. The singularity, its fuel gone, snapped shut. The only sound in the ruined throne room was the wind whistling through the broken dome and the distant sound of fires. Ethan Hale stood in the center of the room, smoke or steam rising from his body. The light was gone. Ethan, Zara whispered, emerging from behind a fallen pillar. He turned to look at her. His eyes were dull. The thrumming energy, the inner light, was gone. He looked just human. He gave her a small, exhausted smile. Well, that is one way to win a war. He swayed on his feet. Zara ran and caught him just as he collapsed. His body not dead, but cold. Severely, terrifyingly cold. Ethan, stay with me," she cried, holding him in her arms. He looked up at her, at the smoke-filled sky above them, and at the ruined, but safe, city. Did I change everything?" he whispered. You saved everything, she said, tears tracing paths through the soot on her face. He nodded, a small, tired movement. Good, he murmured, and his eyes slipped shut, his body falling limp in her arms. He was not dead, but he was no longer the ghost. He was no longer the bomb. He was just Ethan, and he was terribly, profoundly, and perhaps permanently empty. The throne room was silent. The only sounds were the crackle of distant fires and the mournful, hollow wind whistling through the shattered dome. The sky was clear, scrubbed clean of the Kryll fleet, a passive, empty blue. Zara knelt on the broken marble, cradling Ethan's limp body. His chest was rising and falling, a shallow, painful rhythm. But the vibrant, thrumming life she had come to associate with him, the inner light, was gone. He felt cold. His skin, usually warm with contained energy, was clammy. The power that had defined him, that had made him a symbol, a weapon, and a miracle, had been spent. He had poured all of it, and more, into that microscopic tear in space. Altharian guards, their armor scorched, faces streaked with soot and shock, began to pour into the throne room. They stopped, stunned, taking in the scene the ruin of their most sacred chamber, the absence of the enemy, and their Empress, weeping, holding the body of the human ghost. Get a medical team, Zara commanded, her voice a raw, broken whisper. Now, get me a gurney. Get him to the royal wing. Now. The next hours were a blur of antiseptic smells, frantic energy, and the quiet, desperate hum of Altharian medical technology. Ethan was alive, but only just. He was in a deep coma, his body's systems shattered by the strain of channeling an impossible amount of energy. His cellular structure is compromised. Empress. The head Altharian doctor, a tall, grave female, explained, her luminous eyes scanning a flickering data display. He did not just use the energy. He became it. He channeled a force capable of displacing a fleet. His nervous system is fused. His mitochondria they are just burnt out. He has aged, biologically, 50 years in the last 10 minutes. Can you fix him? Zara demanded. She had not slept. She had not left the medical bay. Her face was still dirty, her armor still cracked. The doctor hesitated. We do not know what he is, Majesty. He was a resurrected human, enhanced by a process we do not understand. Who, then, did this? We are treating the symptoms. We are stabilizing him. But we cannot reignite the fire. That is gone. If he wakes, he will just be a man, a very, very fragile man. If he wakes, Zara repeated, the words hanging in the sterile air. His brain. There is activity, but it is not a coma. It is, something else. We just have to wait. Zara dismissed the doctor. She sat by Ethan's bed, looking at his face. The doctor was right. He looked older. The flawless, sculpted perfection of his resurrected body was gone. There were new lines around his eyes, a pallor to his skin. He looked like the man he should have been. A man who had lived 50 hard years and was now dying. She took his hand. It was just a hand. The power was gone. You saved me, Ethan, she whispered to his unconscious form. You saved all of us. You changed everything. But I lied to you. About Kratos. About your past. She squeezed his hand, tears welling again. I was so afraid. Afraid that if you knew the truth, you would hate me. That you would not be the hero I needed you to be. I was a child. And when you came back, I was still that child. I am so sorry. She laid her head on the bed. Please, just wake up. Wake up and hate me. But just wake up. But Ethan did not wake up. Not in the medical bay. He was floating. He was in a place of infinite, sterile, shadowless white. It was not a room. It had no walls, no floor, no ceiling. It was just white. He was not floating. He realized. He was standing. He looked down. He was not in his Altharian uniform. He was not in his old Earth Alliance armor. He was barefoot, wearing a simple, gray tunic and trousers, the ethel pajamas. "Oh, come on," he said. His voice was not his. It was the voice of the man he had been 50 years ago. Tired, raspy, human. Not this again. Dr. Eris, is this the deluxe resurrection package? Did I die again? There was no answer. He was alone. He looked at his hands that were clear. They were not glowing. They were just hands, scarred. He saw the faint white line on his palm from an old knife fight in a bar on Mars. A burn scar on his forearm from a plasma conduit overload. These were his hands, his real hands. "This is not a hospital," he said, his heart beginning to pound. This was not a memory. This was something else. This is new. "It is," a voice said. The voice came from everywhere. It was not male or female. It was amused. It was vast, ancient, and it sounded like it was smiling. Ethan spun around. There was no one there. "Who are you? Where am I?" "You are in the editing room," the voice said. "The space between the margin and I am the author." A figure coalesced from the white. It was not a person. It was a shape. A column of shifting, iridescent light, flickering with colors he had never seen. It had no face, no limbs, but it had a presence. "I am the architect, the observer, the audience." The being of light pulsed, and the white room around them seemed to warm. "And you, Ethan Hale, are my absolute favorite character." Ethan stared. I do not understand." "Of course you do not." The architect laughed. It was a sound like wind chimes and breaking glass. "You are not supposed to. You are the protagonist. You are supposed to feel, to fight, to sacrifice, to hurt. You are not supposed to think." "Not about this." "Think about what?" Ethan felt a cold, existential dread that dwarfed his fear of Malachor. "About this," the architect pulsed, and the white void dissolved. Ethan was on Kratos. The yellow sky, the sulfur. He saw himself, his old self, in his armor, pushing the tiny, terrified 4-year-old Zara toward the conduit. "You are going to change everything," he heard himself say. Then, freeze frame. The scene stopped. The plasma bolt hung in the air. "This," the architect said, its voice now beside him. Ethan turned. The column of light was standing next to him on the yellow rock. This was the nexus, the imprint, a moment of pure, unadulterated, cross-species sacrifice. A human soldier, a jaded veteran, giving his life for an alien child, the heir to an empire. Oh, it was beautiful. The emotional resonance was delicious. The scene dissolved. They were back in the white void. "What do you mean, imprint?" Ethan asked, his voice trembling. "When an event happens with such profound, paradoxical emotional force, it leaves a scar on the fabric of reality," the architect explained, its light swirling. "A story. I am a collector. I find these stories, these perfect, beautiful loops, and I polish them, I run them. I explore them. I savor them. You run them. Over and over, the architect said. I have watched you die on Kratos, Ethan, 10,000 times. I have watched Zara escape. I have watched the Eltharian Empire burn. It is a perfect, tragic narrative. But it changed, Ethan whispered. I came back. Yes. The architect flared with excitement. It did, you see, after a few thousand viewings. Even the best story gets a little stale. I wanted more. I wanted to see what would happen next. So, I introduced a new variable. I took your imprint, your consciousness, and I put it in a new, enhanced body. I gave you the power. I wrote you a new past, a new villain. Malachor, Ethan breathed. Oh, he was a good one. What was not he? The architect said, pleased. The 1,000-year history, the stolen birthright, the human virus. All me. I needed a villain worthy of my new hero. I wrote him, and I wrote his history, and I wove it into the narrative. I even gave you a lovely little side plot with the betrayals. Theron, Kira, just to test you, to make you stronger. Ethan felt his knees buckle. He was not real. He was a character. This thing had been playing with him, with Zara, with billions of lives. The war, Ethan said, his voice numb. The 50 years of war, Meridian, the station, all those people, though, they were not real. Of course they were real, the architect said, sounding almost offended. They were real to you. They were real to the narrative. They had to be. Otherwise your choices would not matter. Their pain had to be real for your sacrifice to have meaning. I do not create puppets. Ethan, I create worlds, and I let them live and die. You are a monster, Ethan whispered, clutching his head. You are a god, a sick, twisted god. I am an artist, the architect corrected him. And you were my masterpiece, and until today. The white light of the room dimmed. The architect's light turned a cold, angry blue. You were not supposed to win, Ethan, so not like that. You were supposed to fight Malachor. You were supposed to die again, saving Zara, in an even more beautiful, tragic sacrifice. And then I would have resurrected you again. A new chapter. But you broke it. I broke. What? The script, the narrative, you improvised. You used the power I gave you not to fight my villain, but to delete him. You ripped a hole in my story. You tore him, and his entire fleet, out of the narrative. You collapsed the primary conflict. The white void around them began to tear. Black, empty, static, began to bleed in at the edges of the non-room. What is happening? Ethan yelled. You have ruined it. The architect's voice was no longer amused. It was a cold, digital rage. This iteration, this entire world, is now corrupted, collapsed. The story is over. It must be deleted. Deleted you are. You are killing everyone, Zara. They are just data now, corrupted files. I will erase this iteration and start again. A fresh loop, back to Kratos. I will have to write you a new villain. It is so much work. No, Ethan said, shaking his head. No, you cannot. She is real. Her pain is real. Yes. And I will savor it again, the architect said. But first, your sentience, this aberration, this will that allowed you to break my rules. It is a fascinating new element. I must harvest it, study it, before I erase you. The column of light changed. It solidified, taking on a form, a jagged, crystalline humanoid shape, faceless, made of pure black static and angry. Blue light. It was the negative image of a god. "Your story is over, Ethan," the entity said, its new voice a discordant shriek. "Now give me your soul." The architect vanished from the void. Ethan snapped awake. He was in the medical bay. He smelled the antiseptic. He saw the flickering monitors. He was weak, so weak. And Zara was there. She was asleep, her head on his bed, her hand clutching his. "Zara," he gasped. His voice was a dry rattle. She shot awake, her eyes wide, red-rimmed. "Ethan, you are awake." "Zara, listen to me," he said, grabbing her arm. "We are in danger. He is here. The architect. What?" She looked confused, scared. "Ethan, you are delirious. You are sick. Kaller is dead. Malachor is gone. You saved us." "No," he said, trying to sit up. His body screamed. He was just a man. A broken, fragile man. "No, it was a lie. All of it. He wrote it. He is a god, and he is coming to erase us." "Ethan, stop. You are not making sense." "He is coming for you," Ethan yelled, just as the walls of the medical bay began to dissolve. The monitors, the bed, the sterile white walls. They did not explode. They flaked away, like old paint, dissolving into black, empty static. Zara screamed. They were no longer in the medical bay. They were in the black void, the static void, the deleted space of the architect. They were standing on a fragment of the hospital floor, floating in an endless, dead abyss. "You see, Empress," a voice shrieked. The architect was there, the crystalline, faceless being of static. It was massive, looming over them like a mountain. "He is delirious," the entity mocked. "He is a broken file. But he is right about one thing." It turned its cold, terrifying focus on Zara. You are the heart. You are the catalyst. Your pain, your love, that is the core of the narrative. That is the part I must harvest." It raised a jagged, crystalline hand. Zara was paralyzed, her eyes wide with a terror that transcended any fear of the Creole. This was not a monster. This was the end of reality. "What will you do now?" Protagonist, the architect taunted Ethan, who had fallen to his knees, his body too weak to even stand. "You have no power. You have no strength. You are just a man, a broken, dying echo. You cannot save her. The script is finished." Ethan looked at the creature. He looked at Zara, helpless, tears streaming down her face. He was right. He had no power. He was not a ghost. He was not a bomb. He was just Ethan. He remembered Kratos, his real death. He had no power then, either. He had a sidearm and a little girl behind him. He had a choice. "You are wrong," Ethan wheezed, pushing himself to his feet. His legs trembled, threatening to buckle. He was just a fragile man. He stumbled, planting himself between the architect and Zara. He raised his weak, scarred, powerless human hands. "What is this?" the architect shrieked, amused. A final, pathetic gesture. "You cannot fight me. I am your creator." "I am not in your story," Ethan said, his voice quiet, but clear in the dead void. You are in mine." "What? You told me," Ethan said, spitting blood from his ruined lungs. "The imprint. Kratos. That was me. That was my choice, my sacrifice. You did not write that. You found it. You did not create me. You copied me. You are just a plagiarist, a parasite." The architect roared, a sound of pure, wounded rage. "I gave you life." "You gave me a script," Ethan countered, "and I am done reading it." The entity lunged. Its arm, a blade of pure static, and swung down, not at Ethan, but through him, at Zara. Ethan did not try to block it. He did not have the strength, he did not have the power. He did the only thing a human could do. He chose. He lunged forward. He ignored the blade. He ignored the god. He wrapped his arms around the crystalline, static body of the architect. He tackled his own creator. No, the architect screamed. It was not a physical attack. It was a conceptual one. It was the original, the imprint, the pure, human, unadulterated, human will that had defined the nexus, slamming into the copy. It was the source code attacking the virus. It was the idea itself, fighting the one who had stolen it. The architect was a god. It understood power. It understood energy. It understood the narrative. It did not understand love. It did not understand will. It did not understand a man with no power, choosing to die or again, just to hold a monster's arm back for one single, meaningless second, just for her. The paradox was too much. The pure, human choice, the sacrifice, the very thing the architect had come to savor. It was now a poison. The entity screamed as Ethan's humanity, his soul, began to overload it. The architect's form began to crack. White, pure light. Ethan's light poured from the fissures. "This is not in the script," the entity shrieked as its body broke apart. "You cannot. I am. I am." It exploded, a wave of pure original light, the light of Kratos, blasted outward, consuming the black, static void. The world dissolved. Ethan was floating, no longer weak, no longer a man, no longer a god. He was just a consciousness. He was in the pure white void again. But it was not sterile. It was warm. He saw Zara, floating near him, her eyes closed, at peace. He had broken the loop. He had destroyed the architect. He had won. But in doing so, he had erased the world. The story was over. He felt himself beginning to fade. His purpose was done. No, he thought. He was not done. He reached out, not with a hand, but with his will. He moved toward Zara's fading consciousness. "I am not letting you go. Not this time." He pulled her to him. He was the ghost. He was the man. He was the story. And he was choosing. He was not sacrificing himself for her. He was choosing her. He poured all of his remaining self, his original imprint, into her, not as a god but as a shield. The white void went black, silence, darkness, and ended then. A sound, faint, not alarms, not screams, not wind chimes or breaking glass. It was a bird. A bird was singing. Ethan Hale's eyes snapped open. He was not in a void. He was not in a medical bay. He was lying on his back on soft green grass. A gentle, warm, yellow sun was filtering through the leaves of a large, green tree above him. He heard water, a running stream. The air smelled of damp earth and flowers. He sat up. He was wearing his gray tunic. He looked at his hands. They were his old, scarred, human hands. He felt okay. He felt tired, but whole. Where? He heard a gasp. He turned. Zara was sitting a few feet away, her hands pressed to her mouth, her luminous eyes wide. She was not in her armor. She was in a simple, Altharian blue dress. She was staring at him. "Ethan," she whispered, as if afraid he was a dream. He could not speak. He just looked at her. "Where are we?" she asked, her voice trembling. "What is this?" Ethan looked around. It was a forest. A peaceful, simple, real forest. He looked at Zara. The Empress was gone. The child was gone. It was just her. He smiled, a real, tired human smile. "I have no idea," he said. "But I think we are free." For a long time, there was only the sound of the wind through the leaves and the gentle though melodic rush of the nearby stream. The yellow sun was warm, not the harsh, artificial light of the station or the sickly, sulphurous yellow of Kratos. It was a simple, honest warmth. Ethan pushed himself into a sitting position. The grass was soft and vibrantly green. He felt a dull ache in his chest, a deep, muscular soreness, as if he had run a marathon and then been beaten with clubs. But it was a human ache. He looked at his hands. They were, as he had seen in the void, his own. The faint, white line of a scar on his palm, the slightly crooked knuckle on his right hand, the power, the cosmic, world-breaking energy, was gone. He was not a channel. He was not a bomb. He was just finished. Zara was already awake, kneeling by the stream, her simple blue dress dark with water. She was running her fingers through the clear, cold current, watching it splash. Her shoulders were shaking. Ethan stood, his legs unsteady, and walked over to her. "Zara." She looked up. Her luminous, twilight-colored eyes were wide, not with terror, but with a profound, shattering disbelief. She was not crying. She was processing. "It is real," she whispered. She scooped up a handful of water. "It is wet. It is cold. I am thirsty." She drank from her hands. A simple animal act. "It is just water." "Where are we?" she asked, her voice small. "I think," Ethan looked up at the unfamiliar blue sky. "I think the architect lost his security deposit. I think this is what is left when the stage is torn down." "The stage," she repeated. She looked around at the towering ancient trees and the distant, snow-capped mountains. "It is beautiful and quiet." She frowned. "It is too quiet. The war, the station, Kalor, Malachor, my people." "Gone," Ethan said, the word landing flat and heavy. "The architect, the narrative, the whole sick story. I think we are all that is left of it." A strange sound bubbled up from Zara's throat. It was a half-sob, half-gasp, and then it broke into a full, unrestrained laugh. It was a wild, strange, slightly hysterical sound. It was the first time he had ever heard her make a sound that was not related to command, fear, or profound sadness. The laugh was so startling it stopped her. She stared at him, her hand over her mouth. "What?" he asked. I have never just laughed," she said, her voice full of wonder. "There was always something. The Cryol, the Council, the war, my father. You. I am still here," he pointed out. "Yes," she said, standing up. "But you are not a ghost, and I am not an empress." She looked down at her simple dress, then at him in his gray tunic. "We are ridiculous. We just survived the end of the universe. And we are dressed like we are in basic." Ethan felt a rumble in his stomach, a deep, profound, urgent hunger. "I am starving," he announced. Does this new reality come with a menu? Or do I have to go find a bear and argue with him over a fish? This time, her laugh was quieter, but it was real. I do not know. I have never had to find my own food. Right, Empress. Ethan rolled his shoulders, feeling the pop of his joints. Well, lucky for you. I was a grunt before I was a ghost, and grunts know how to scrounge. You stay here. Try not to erase any more realities. I am going to go see if food is a feature in this new world. He turned and walked into the forest, his old, scarred, human body feeling surprisingly, wonderfully, painfully alive. Days turned into weeks. The world, they discovered, was vast, green, and completely, utterly empty. There were no cities. There were no ships in the sky. There were no aliens, no Kryl, no Altharians. There were birds, fish, deer-like creatures. And the two of them, it was a new world, a fresh start, an Eden without a script. They built a shelter near the stream, a clumsy but sturdy thing of wood and stone. Ethan, it turned out, retained the muscle memory of his old survival training. He fashioned snares, a fishing spear, a serviceable bow. He taught Zara how to track, how to clean a fish, how to spot which berries were safe. She was, at first, a terrible student. No, he said, taking the spear from her. You are stabbing the water. The fish is gone. You have to wait. You have to anticipate it. It is like chess, but wetter. I commanded a fleet of thousands, Zara muttered, wringing out her wet sleeve. I planned the defense of 10 star systems. I cannot anticipate. A fish. The fish is not bound by political loyalty. Your Highness, Ethan said, trying not to smile. It is a tougher audience. That night, she sat by the fire, poking at the fish he had caught. It was sizzling on a flat stone. I am not an empress, she said quietly. What? Stop calling me that. I am not. That. Any more? She looked at him, the firelight dancing in her luminous eyes. That? That person. She is gone. She died with the station. With Keller. The name hung in the air. The peace of their new life was a thin blanket over a vast, cold ocean of loss. Ethan sat down across from her. He died a hero, Zara. He bought us time. He died for nothing, she said, her voice flat. He died to save an empress who does not exist, to protect an empire that was just a story. His sacrifice. It was erased. It did not mean anything. It meant something to us, Ethan said softly. We are here. That is what it meant. It was real, Zara. The architect said it. The pain was real. That makes the sacrifice real. Does it? She asked, her gaze distant, looking into the flames. Or does it just make us survivors? We are here, in this paradise. While everyone we knew, everyone who fought and died, they are just deleted files. Billions of them. Meridian. My people on the station. Your people from Earth. Gone. Is this justice that we two, the center of the story, get to walk away, that we get to plant vegetables? The justice versus revenge question was no longer about the Kryl. It was about their own survival. It was the deep, festering wound of survivor's guilt. I do not know what it is, Ethan said, his voice rough. I do not have the answers. I am not a philosopher. I am just a soldier, and right now, I am a carpenter and a very bad farmer. I do not know if it is justice, Zara. But it is. Life. We are alive. We are free. Is that not what we were fighting for? I was not fighting to be free, she countered, her voice rising. I was fighting to protect. I had a duty. I had, responsibilities. Now I have nothing. I am useless. I cannot even cook a fish. She angrily shoved the stone and the fish into the fire. Hey, Ethan protested. I was going to eat that. I am a failure. She yelled, standing up. I am an empress of dirt. I am a joke. Stop it, Ethan said, standing up to face her. Stop minimizing what this is. You are not a failure. You are grieving. You are grieving an entire universe. You are allowed to be angry. You are allowed to burn the fish. She stared at him, her chest heaving, tears finally streaming down her face. She had not cried for Keller. She had not cried for her fleet. She had not cried when she faced Malachor. She was crying now, for a burnt fish, for everything. She hit his chest, a surprisingly hard blow. It is not fair. I know, he said, not moving. She hit him again. It is not right. I know. He gently took her wrists. Her skin was warm, real. But it is. It is what we have. It is just us. She collapsed against him. All the strength, all the regal bearing of the Empress, finally breaking. She sobbed into his tunic. A deep, wrenching grief for a billion lost souls, for a dead general, for a lost empire. Ethan just held her. He was not a ghost. He was not a savior. He was just a man, holding a woman who had lost everything. The power was gone. But this felt more real and more important than any cosmic beam he had ever thrown. The quiet returned. But it was different. It was no longer the empty, unsettling silence of a vacant world. It was a shared silence. Months passed. The house they built became a home. They learned the rhythms of the planet, the seasons, the migration of the deer-like herds. Zara became a proficient hunter, her regal poise translating into a lethal patience with the bow. Ethan found he was a decent carpenter, his scarred hands surprisingly adept at shaping wood. They talked. They talked for hours, for days. He told her about the fuzzy, fragmented memories of Earth, a bar on Mars, the smell of rain in a city he could not name. She told him about her father, about growing up in the palace, about Keller, who had taught her how to ride her first hover cycle. They were, for the first time, just two people, sharing their pasts, the real and the constructed, trying to build a new one. The romantic tension that had hummed beneath the surface during the war, the unspoken bond between the ghost and the Empress, was now something different. It was quieter, deeper. It was the simple, profound intimacy of two people who had seen the end of the world and were now the only two people in their world. They were sitting on the porch of their small house, watching the planet's two moons, one large and silver, one small and blue, rise over the mountains. The air was cool. I still do not understand what this place is, Zara said, pulling a blanket around her shoulders. Did you make this, Ethan? When you destroyed the architect, did you create this sanctuary, with your power? No, Ethan said, shaking his head. He was carving a piece of wood, a small, intricate bird. I did not have that kind of control. I was just yelling. I think maybe this is the real world, the foundation, the place the architect built his stage on top of. And when we destroyed him, all the sets were just removed. This is what was underneath. A world, Zara mused. Empty. Waiting. Not empty, Ethan said. He looked at her, a small smile on his face. It has us, and I have to admit, the fish is much better now. Zara smiled back. I am a slow learner, but I am not an empress. I can afford to be. It was a moment of perfect, simple peace. They were not heroes. They were not political figures. They were just content. And then the sound began. It was not a bird. It was not the wind. It was a hum, a low, synthetic, electronic hum. Ethan stopped carving. He stood up, his body tensing, the old soldier instincts flooding back, even without the power. What is that? I do not know, Zara said, standing beside him. She was scanning the dark tree line. It sounds familiar. No, Ethan said, his eyes scanning the sky. It is not familiar, that is the problem. There is nothing here to make that sound. They looked up at the two moons, and then they saw it. It was not a star. It was a light. A single, sharp, blue light. It was moving, streaking across the orbit of the silver moon, silent and impossibly fast. Then another appeared, and a third. Ethan, Zara said, her voice dropping, all the old, cold command returning to it. The mountains, look. He tore his gaze from the sky and looked at the horizon. The distant, snow-capped mountains were no longer dark. A beam of light, a massive column of energy, was lancing up from behind the peaks. It was not the white-yellow of the Cryol. It was not the crimson of Althera. It was blue, a cold, sterile, analytical blue, the exact same, terrible blue as the architect's light. No, Ethan whispered, his blood running cold. It is impossible. I destroyed it. I tackled it. It exploded. You destroyed it, Zara said, her hand instinctively reaching for a pulse pistol that was no longer there. You destroyed the author, but you told me what it said. It was a collector. It found stories. It was not the only one. The beam on the horizon flared, pulsing, and a low, synthetic boom rolled across their peaceful valley, rattling the wooden porch. It was not an explosion. It was a signal. You did not just destroy it, Ethan, Zara said, her eyes fixed on the cold, blue light. You tackled your own creator. You ripped a hole in the story. You did not just end the narrative. Ethan finished her thought, his voice a low, tired growl. I opened the door. They were not alone. Their new, peaceful world was not undiscovered. They had been found. Ethan looked at his hands. His human, scarred, powerless hands. He felt the ache in his ribs, the old scars, the limits of his flesh. The bomb was gone. The ghost was gone. Well, he said, turning to Zara, this is a problem. The cold, blue light from the mountains was not an attack. It was an announcement. It was the sound of a sterile, digital operating system booting up. A terrible and familiar hum that vibrated in Ethan's bones. The lights in the sky were not ships. They were cursors, search queries. They moved with unnatural, perfect precision, zipping from one point to another, scanning the horizon. They are not Cryol, Zara said, her voice a low, hard whisper. She had instinctively retrieved the bow from the porch. She nocked an arrow, a simple, fire-hardened wooden shaft. It was a pathetic, absurd gesture against the sky-ripping power on the horizon. They are not anything. They are, like the architect. They are exactly like the architect, Ethan said. He was holding his half-carved bird, his knuckles white. This one just uses a different font. I was a fool. What do you mean? I thought I broke the story. I thought I killed the author, he said. His voice a low, tired growl. I did not. I just reported a bug. I just sent a crash report to the main office. And this is tech support. The blue light on the horizon pulsed, and a voice, not a voice, but a transmission, entered their minds. It was not the amused, artistic voice of the architect. It was cold, flat, and informational. It was a text-to-speech engine, reading a system diagnostic. Error. Narrative file. 734 corrupted. Primary antagonist, Malachor, deleted. Secondary antagonists, Kira and Theron, deleted. Core setting, Althera Station, deleted. Protagonist asset, Ethan Hale, has breached narrative parameters. Catalyst asset, Zara, has been displaced. Commencing reality integrity scan. The blue lights in the sky began to descend, sweeping over the valley, moving closer. It knows our names, Zara breathed, raising her bow to the sky. It calls us assets. We are just characters, remember, Ethan said, his voice dripping with a bitter sarcasm. He tossed the wooden bird aside. The main characters, in a story that just got canceled, and the studio executives are here to see what went wrong. One of the blue cursors, a sphere of cold, blue light the size of a man, zipped over the ridge and descended into their valley. It stopped, hovering 100 yards away, silent. It bathed their small wooden house in its sterile, analytical glow. Assets identified, imprint Hale and catalyst Zara. This foundational world is a restricted area, a staging ground. You are not authorized to be here. We are not authorized, Ethan yelled at the light. We live here, your predecessor. He is the one who trapped us. We broke his game. The light pulsed. The artist node was a rogue program. It has been terminated. Its modifications to this narrative file were unstable. You, Ethan Hale, are the primary source of the instability. Good, Ethan said. I am glad I ruined his fun. Now get out of our world. This is not your world. This is a workspace. The narrative file will be restored from backup. A new thing appeared in the air between them and the probe. It was not a hologram. It was a window, a tear in the air. Through it, they saw a scene. The command center on Althera Station. Kalor, alive, golden-armored, scarred, was at the main console, roaring commands. The Altherian fleet, silver and beautiful, was wheeling in perfect formation. The Kryal were there, a dark cloud, but they were distant. It was the war. It was the moment before the final attack. Kaller, Zara whispered. She took a step toward the window, her bow lowering. Her hand went to her mouth. The backup is clean, the cold voice hummed. Dated before the Malachor and Hale convergence. We can reinitiate. We can restore your world. The loss, the pain, it can be undone. Zara looked at the image. Her people, her duty, her general. Everything she had lost. Everything she had grieved. He is alive, she whispered. Her eyes fixed on Kaller's angry, familiar, beloved face. My people, they are all alive. It is a lie, Zara, Ethan said, grabbing her arm. His voice was urgent. "It is not real. It is a story, a script. It is a cage. Is this better?" she cried, tearing her arm from his grasp. She gestured around at the empty, silent forest. "Is this dirt and nothing? Better. This is not a life. It is an exile. That is my duty. My people are in there. They are not your people. Zara, they are characters. They are to me," she shrieked, her face a mask of agony. She looked at the blue probe. You can send me back. I can be with them. You are the catalyst. You must assume your position in the narrative. The story must be completed. Order must be restored." "And him?" she asked, her voice breaking. She pointed at Ethan. "The Hale anomaly will be contained. It is too unstable. It will be archived, studied, erased from the narrative." Zara stared at the probe. She looked at the window, at the image of her vibrant, living, breathing empire. Kaller was shouting, and in the window, he almost looked like he was smiling. Then she looked at Ethan. He was just standing there, powerless, weak. His face was streaked with dirt, his gray tunic torn. He was not a ghost, he was not a bomb. He was just the man who had died for her. The man who had refused to let her go in the void. He was the man who had taught her how to catch a fish. He looked at her, his eyes full of pain, but he did not try to persuade her. He just watched her. He was giving her the choice. "He is not a file," she said, her voice dropping. All the grief and indecision suddenly burning away, replaced by a cold, pure, human fury. A fury she had learned from him. "What?" Ethan said. Zara turned her back on the window, to her old life. She faced the blue probe. You call him an anomaly, a virus, a bug. You are just like the other one. You're just a bigger, stupider bully. Your compliance is not optional. Your purpose is to complete the narrative." "No," Zara said. She raised her bow, the simple wooden stick, and aimed the crude arrow directly at the heart of the blue, floating sphere. "My purpose is him." She let the arrow fly. It was a pathetic attack. The arrow, a piece of sharpened wood, struck the blue light's energy field and dissolved into harmless ash. But it was not an attack. It was an answer. The probe pulsed, a deep, angry red. Non-compliance. The catalyst is corrupted. The narrative is a total loss. Initiating protocol. "What protocol?" Ethan yelled as the window to the past snapped shut. "Sanitization. The world. This foundational world has been compromised by the anomaly. It must be cleansed." The blue light on the horizon, the one behind the mountains, began to change, or it was no longer a signal. It was gathering, the hum rising in pitch, becoming a terrible, deafening keen. The sky began to tear. The fabric of their new, real world was beginning to unravel. It is going to erase everything," Zara said, her voice trembling, but her bow was still raised. "It is going to delete the foundation." "It cannot," Ethan said. "What? Look at it." "It cannot," Ethan said, a strange, new, and utterly human confidence in his voice. "The other one, the artist, it could not really. It just built on top of this. It put up sets. It cannot destroy the stage." "Then what is that?" Zara pointed at the tearing sky. "It is a bluff," Ethan said. "It is a bigger, meaner story. It is trying to scare us back into the box." He looked at the hovering blue probe, which was now pulsing with red light. A silent, digital threat. "It wants me," Ethan said. "I am the bug. I am the paradox. It does not want to delete the world. It wants to quarantine me." "Ethan, no," she said, grabbing his arm. He ignored her. He stepped forward, away from the house, away from Zara. He stood in the middle of the field, his arms open wide. "All right," he shouted at the probe. "You win. You want the anomaly. You want the bug. Here I am. Take me, study me, whatever, just leave. Her alone. Leave this world alone. It is all I have left." It was the echo of Kratos. The final, perfect sacrifice. The thing the architect had always wanted. He was offering it, freely, to this new god. The probe stopped pulsing red. It turned a cold, analytical white. "You offer yourself in exchange for the catalyst asset, yes," Ethan said. "Your sacrifice is noted. But it is illogical. The anomaly must be studied. But the catalyst is also corrupted. Both must be—" "No!" Zara stepped up beside him. She put her hand in his. Her hand was scarred now, too, from the bow, from the knife, from living. "You do not get it. Do you?" she said to the probe, her voice ringing with the old, lost power of an empress. But it was not an empress's power. It was a woman's. It is not his sacrifice. It is our choice. "You call me a catalyst. You call him an anomaly. You are wrong. He is not my anomaly. He is my people." She looked at Ethan, her luminous eyes clear and fierce. My empire. It was never the throne. It was never the fleet. It was the idea of sacrifice. The idea of duty. That is what Kalar died for. It is what you died for." She turned back to the light. "I am the Empress of Althar. And he, this one human, is my empire. My loyalty, my fealty, is to him, to humanity. Because he is more real than your entire, pathetic, empty universe of stories." She raised her chin. "So, no, you cannot take him. You cannot have me. And you cannot have our world. You can talk to us. Or you can fight us. But you cannot have us. We are not in your story anymore." There was a long, profound silence. The tearing sky froze. The keening sound stopped. The blue probe just hovered. It was, for the lack of a better word, thinking. It was processing an idea that had never occurred to it. The idea of no. "This changes the parameters," the cold voice finally said. "The narrative is not the priority. The imprint, the choice is we will observe." For now, the light from the mountain vanished. The tear in the sky sealed. The blue probe, the cursor, did not attack. It did not leave. It simply moved. It retreated, zipping back up over the ridge, and took a stationary position, high in the sky, a new, cold, blue star in their firmament. A silent, waiting, watching star. The threat was over, but the vigilance had just begun. Ethan let out a breath he did not know he was holding. He swayed, the adrenaline gone, leaving him just a tired man. "Well," he said, his voice shaky. "That was a hell of a speech. Your Highness, you really do like me." Zara laughed, a real, shaky, relieved laugh. She did not let go of his hand. "Do not let it go to your head. My people, you are still a terrible farmer. Your corn is sad. It is. It is rustic, he defended, smiling. They stood there for a long time, just holding hands, looking at the new blue star. The war was over. The story was over. But life was just beginning. And it was going to be complicated. So, Ethan said, finally. What now? Zara squeezed his hand. Now, we live. We survive. We build. And we wait. And if they come back, we fight. He finished. I know. He looked at her. The empress of a single human. It is not a very big empire. You know. No, she agreed, leaning her head on his shoulder. He was solid. He was real. But it is a very, very strong one. And it is the only one I have ever really wanted. He put his arm around her. They turned, together, and walked back to their small, wooden house, to their rustic, sad corn, and their shared, uncertain, and finally, truly free future. The blue star watched and waited, and for the first time in its ancient, analytical existence, it wondered,